My best friend is an Irish heiress.
She was royalty from Ireland.
Had a huge inheritance.
We're talking $30 million.
But it turns out Mayor Smith is actually an international con artist, and police are hunting for her.
She's left a trail of devastation in her wake.
This is not normal to be outside her place.
I would rather die than let her get away.
Listen to Queen of the Con every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkman, host of the Anxiety Bites podcast. Take a weekly deep dive into anxiety as I share stories from my decades of anxiety disorders and recovery, as well as candid and down-to-earth interviews with esteemed experts in the field of anxiety who are here to help us all have our anxiety bite less. Subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
For the past 20 years, I've been immersed in the world of true crime and have confronted serial killers face to face. My name is M. William Phelps, host of the hit podcast Paper Ghosts. Now my new show, Crossing the Line. Get ready for the uncensored truth, interviews with top experts, and stories of the missing and murdered you have not heard anywhere else.
I mean, he was the master manipulator of coercive control.
It turns out that the dead guy worked out at the same gym.
Listen to Crossing the Line, coming October 12. Listen and subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
This is The Look Ahead with Scott Seidenberg on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Well, that's it. Week 4 of the NFL season is in the books with the conclusion of Monday Night Football. Let's break it all down. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's The Look Ahead here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, coming to you from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. You can follow me on Twitter at Scott's On Air. Follow the entire network at VSiN Live. The Chargers defeating the Raiders 28-14, covering the three-point line, and the under comes in as it went off at 51 to 51.5. And so the Raiders no longer undefeated, meaning the only undefeated team in the league is the Arizona Cardinals. The Chargers and Raiders are both now 3-1, and this game at times seemed to be a bore fest. You thought it was going to be a blowout. Then the Raiders made it interesting in the third quarter, but the fourth quarter did not go their way. The Chargers jumped out to a 21-0 lead, and to be honest, it could have been worse. Justin Herbert missing a wide-open Mike Williams, who was very silent tonight, and that could have been a long touchdown. There were a couple of other missed opportunities, but the defenses both played well despite the score being 21-0 in that first half. In the first quarter, the Chargers defense was all over the Raiders. And then the 2 touchdowns by Las Vegas in the third quarter made the game interesting. The Chargers score in the fourth. There was a missed field goal by the Raiders. And then at the end, the turnover by Derek Carr ended any hopes of a miracle comeback as the Chargers hold on to the 28-14 lead. As I mentioned, they covered the spread, and the under does come in. So now that we wrap up Week 4 in the NFL, let's take a look at where we stand. Our very own Dave Tooley tweeting out, favorites lead 35-27 straight up through the first 4 weeks. 2 games closed as a pick'em. That was Tampa Bay and the Rams in Week 3 and Cleveland, Minnesota here in Week 4. Underdogs, however, they lead the way against the spread, 37-25. Underdogs are covering at 59.7%. Road teams are 33-30 straight up. There was one neutral site game. That was the Green Bay-New Orleans game in Jacksonville in Week 1. And road teams are 35-28 against the spread. That's 56.5%. And unders lead the way with 37-27 record, 57.8% unders are covering. So what can we take away from these numbers? Well, underdogs, 37-25 against the spread. Road teams, 35-28 against the spread. And unders, 37-27 We're going to go with road dogs and the unders in the next couple of games. Let's take a look at this Monday Night Football game, though, from the prop perspective and see which players went over or under their props. As far as the quarterbacks go, Justin Herbert and Derek Carr both went under their passing yardage prop. Herbert threw for 222 yards. He did have 3 passing touchdowns, which would go over the 1.5 touchdowns. And Derek Carr, or Herbert was at 2.5, but he still goes over. Derek Carr, just 196 passing yards. He throws 2 touchdowns, so that goes over his 1.5. Derek Carr did throw an interception. That goes over the 0.5. Justin Herbert did not throw an interception, so that goes under the 0.5. As for the running backs, a big night for Austin Eckler. 15 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown. He goes well over his yardage prop for rushing, and he exceeds his prop for rushing plus receiving. If you listen to last night's show, that was the prop that I liked the most, which was Austin Eckler over rushing plus receiving yards. He got over the 98.5 just by his rushing total of 117 yards, but he did throw in 28 receiving yards as well. Eckler scoring 2 touchdowns in this game, 1 on the ground and 1 through the air. So if you bet Austin Eckler to score 2 touchdowns, you got some decent plus money value there. For the Raiders, Josh Jacobs had just 40 rushing yards on 13 carries, and he did not find the end zone. For the receivers, the receiving numbers, Jared Cook led the way for the Chargers with 70 receiving yards and a touchdown. He goes well over his receiving yardage prop. Everyone else went under for the Chargers. Keenan Allen just 36. Mike Williams had 1 catch for 11 yards. Austin Eckler, he had 28 yards. For the Raiders, Henry Ruggs led the way with 60 yards. Darren Waller with 50. Hunter Renfrow with 45. Both Waller and Renfrow did catch touchdowns. So your anytime touchdown scorers, Waller, Renfrow, Eckler, all came in. Jared Cook gave you a little bit of plus money value, but the guy who certainly gave you the most plus money value was Donald Parham, who scored the first touchdown of the game. If you had that, and we know some people here at VSiN that did, congratulations as the nice cash there. So 28-14, the Raiders win on Monday Night Football. That wraps up Week 4 in the NFL. And with the win, you now look at Brandon Staley, the first-year head coach of the LA Chargers, and his odds to win the Coach of the Year award. It's very interesting when you start tracking where the Coach of the Year award started to where it continues to be here now. So at the beginning of the season, and let's see if we have anything updated right now. Yep, we have updated right now at Brandon Staley plus 800 as your favorite. So at the beginning of the season, back in May, or this is in the offseason, okay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin Stefanski, and Brandon Staley were co-favorites to win the Coach of the Year. And then later on that month, Kevin Stefanski broke away and he became the favorite. Now, no one has won back-to-back Coach of the Year awards since Joe Gibbs in 1982 and 1983. Kevin Stefanski obviously winning a season ago. Then September 7th, Brandon Staley, first-year head coach, has emerged as the favorite to win the Coach of the Year award, and fellow first-time coach Arthur Smith was second on the board. Now, Arthur Smith's nowhere to be found right now. On September 21st, Sean McVay actually overtook Brandon Staley to win the Coach of the Year award. The Rams were off to a 2-0 start, and the Chargers lost to the Cowboys in Week 2. John Gruden saw his odds improve from around plus 4,400 to like plus 1,850 with the Raiders off to a 2-0 start. Now, fast forward to the following week. After the Chargers beat the Chiefs, Brandon Staley then took over the top spot once again, and then Sean McVay dropped down to second. Both Vic Fangio and Matt Rule saw their odds shoot up with their teams both going off at 3-0 starts. Now, after week 4, where we sit currently, as we take a look at the DraftKings odds, Brandon Staley is the favorite at plus 800. Sean McVay is second at plus 1,000. Cliff Kingsbury, whose Cardinals are off to a 4-0 start, is the third favorite at plus 1,200, followed by Vic Fangio, Matt Rule, Kevin Stefanski, and John Gruden. That is where we take a look at the odds right now. Brandon Staley certainly deserves to be one of the front runners for this award. The Chargers off to a very good start. You could argue could be 4-0. I'll argue that they could be 4-0 because I had them in that game against the Cowboys. But this team is playing well. Austin Eckler's off to a really good start. Justin Herbert playing well. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and that defense. This is a team that's going to contend this season. And Brandon Staley has gotten his team off to a very nice start here in 2021. Other coaches that you could consider, certainly Cliff Kingsbury. The way the Cardinals are playing right now, the only undefeated team left in the NFL, and they have a really good shot to continue this run. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to keep going undefeated, but if you take a look at the Cardinals' schedule, right, they're 4-0 right now. They play against the 49ers next week where they are favored. Assuming they win the games that they're favored against, they will be 5-0. They go on the road to the Browns, probably going to be an underdog. I'm not going to predict the games right now. I'm just going to go based off of the expected spread. So if they're an underdog in there, I'm going to give them a loss. That's 5 wins, 5-1. Then against the Texans, they'll be favored. We'll give them 6-1. Against the Packers at home, they might be a small favorite. They could be 7-1. This is a team that's certainly going to go over their win total expectation and have an inside track at that NFC West division, which right now is them at 4-0, the Rams at 3-1, and then the Seahawks and 49ers both at 2-2. But what is going to be of the San Francisco 49ers? Who will be at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers coming up this week against those Arizona Cardinals? Is it going to be Trey Lance getting his first career start? And we saw him throw 2 touchdowns last week coming in relief of Jimmy Garoppolo, but one of them was on a complete busted coverage. Jamal Adams he was playing zone and everyone else was playing man. So that 70-somewhat yard touchdown, I don't really give that to Trey Lance. And then the other touchdown was a short touchdown, so on like a screen pass. So it's not like he was reading the defense on that one either. Don't know how to grade that performance. But there is some promising news on Jimmy Garoppolo, so maybe that start has to wait a week. We'll get into the NFL player news coming up next. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's the Look Ahead here on VSiN.
Glovin, throw to Rizzo, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
5 years ago, a 108-year curse was lifted. Grown men and women cried as the Chicago Cubs made a magical run to a World Series championship, avenging ancestors left and right.
I mean, it sounds like he's being dramatic, but seriously, that 1-month run was amazing. I'm a lifelong Cubs fan, and I cried. I held my son close, even though he's a White Sox fan.
That's Roy Wood Jr. of The Daily Show. I'm Matt Spiegel of 670's The Score. We, too, are the hosts of a brand new podcast series called The Run from Odyssey and Major League Baseball.
Yes, sir, and we are going to relive all the twists and turns of that postseason, what this win meant for the city of Chicago, what it meant for the Cubs, what it meant for anybody who just loves a great sports story.
Join us on The Run and remember what it felt like. Listen and follow on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football is back, and the best bet you can make is downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It doesn't matter if you're new to gambling or an old pro, FanDuel has something for everyone. And as an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you know your bets are safe. There's also never been a better time to use FanDuel, because right now, you'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. You can even turn a small wager into a big payday with a same-game parlay bet. Just sign up with the promo code Spotify to place your first bet risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook. Download FanDuel today. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'm Jen Kirkman, host of the Anxiety Bites podcast. I'm not a trained mental health professional. In fact, I'm a comedian and a writer, but I am experienced in having anxiety. I've had it my entire life. Generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, multiple phobias, but I've worked on them so much that by the time 2020 rolled around and it seemed like the rest of the world was just experiencing anxiety for the first time, I was actually feeling okay. And I wanted to do something to help other people find the right tools to help them take control of their overwhelming anxiety. So I decided to start a podcast. Anxiety Bites premieres on Wednesday, October 6th. Join me as I have irreverent but factual conversations with experts in the field of mental health. Subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
This is the Look Ahead on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back. This segment of the Look Ahead is presented by Zyn Nicotine Pouches. Zyn is working to create a world where you can enjoy life on your own terms. Zyn Nicotine Pouches are a smoke-free, spit-free, and hassle-free tobacco alternative that can be enjoyed on the go, anywhere and anytime, so you never miss a minute of the game or the tailgate party. Available in 10 varieties, including spearmint, coffee, and citrus, Zyn can be found at convenience stores nationwide, so you can find your Zyn wherever you are. Zyn's nicotine pouches are clean and discreet with no lingering smell. Plus, it's easy to use indoors or out, making it the perfect complement to your everyday. Also, Zyn comes in 2 strengths, so you have control over your nicotine satisfaction. Zyn contains nicotine and is only for adult nicotine consumers 21 and over. Learn more and find your local retailer at Zyn.com. That's ZYN.com. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's the Look Ahead here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The Cardinals, who are 4-0, will take on the San Francisco 49ers. And the spread in that game in Arizona is Cardinals minus 5.5. The injury news after the 49ers lost to the Seahawks didn't sound good for quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. He had a right calf contusion, and apparently it was nagging him. He's been dealing with it, and it got progressively worse. After the game, this is what Garoppolo told reporters, quote, "It's just tough, man. I've been in this situation too many times. It's getting real old. It's just one of those things that's part of the business, though." And what he's referring to is his injury history, that he's been injured throughout his career. And yeah, it's getting old. That doesn't sound like a quarterback that thinks he's going to play. However, on Monday, Kyle Shanahan, 2 reporters said, quote, "It wasn't as bad as we thought it might have been. Today, he's in a lot of pain and still sore. Wednesday, if it's getting better, he has a good chance to play." So, as it stands right now, the 49ers are not ruling out Jimmy Garoppolo for this game. And so if you have a healthy, well, he's not going to be healthy, but if Garoppolo plays, where do you rank them, or where do you think that line moves or doesn't move in this game? As I said, it's Cardinals minus 5.5. The minus 5.5 is currently juiced at minus 115. I think that if it's Trey Lance getting the start, that line moves north of 6. Because that Cardinals defense going up against the rookie in his first start, I think will attract some attention. But speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray now has overtaken Patrick Mahomes as the favorite for the Most Valuable Player award. It's been a tremendous start to the season for Kyler Murray. His team obviously is off to a 4-0 start. And he is now plus 450 to Mahomes's plus 650. Kyler Murray next is going to be, let's just move down the line here. You see Josh Allen, and then Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, then Aaron Rodgers. Mahomes has been the favorite since the odds were posted, but the Chiefs are 2-2. Cardinals are 4-0. Murray entered the season at 25-1, but he was 10-1 after week 1. He is completing 76.1% of his passes. He has accounted for 12 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Mahomes has accounted for 15 touchdowns. Both quarterbacks have thrown 4 interceptions. Matthew Stafford saw his odds dramatically increase. Same with Dak Prescott. And just so you know, a quarterback has won the award 13 of the last 14 seasons. So which player do we like right now? I'll tell you what, I would sprinkle just a little bit, and I know that Monday night wasn't a great night for him, but Justin Herbert plus 750. This Chargers team keeps doing what they're doing, and they keep winning, and he keeps putting up numbers. Yes, the touchdown numbers were, the yardage numbers weren't there on Monday night, but the touchdowns were. So he threw 3 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception, and this team is at 3-1. They play the Browns next week, then the Ravens, then the Patriots, then the Eagles, Vikings, Steelers, Broncos, Bengals, Giants, Chiefs. So the schedule is not easy per se, but look at the way that they've been playing so far. I'm not betting against this team. I love this team. I love the way this team is playing. I've bet on them multiple times this season. Great. Had them winning outright against the Chiefs, and they did. So now you see what they did here against the Vegas Raiders, and Justin Herbert at plus 750 might not be a bad little sprinkle here for the MVP of the league. But Kyler Murray is your favorite at plus 450, and then Patrick Mahomes is the second favorite. If you're asking me to compare with Mahomes and Murray, well, then obviously I go with Mahomes because he has accounted for more touchdowns than Kyler Murray. As far as the quarterback stats go for this season so far, Tom Brady leads in passing yards. This number is not updated, though, with Derek Carr's game, but Carr, who came into Monday night with 1203, he only had, 200-somewhat yards? That's 14. All right, so Derek Carr still would lead the way. So it'll be Derek Carr, then Tom Brady, then Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes. Those will be your top 5. And then passing touchdowns, leading the way with passing touchdowns would be Patrick Mahomes with 14 touchdowns, and then Stafford with 11, Brady with 10, Prescott with 10. That is where we are with the passing touchdowns. Herbert has 9 passing touchdowns. And then as far as completion percentage, your top completion percentage is Kyler Murray at 76.1. Those are your quarterback leaders. Offensive Rookie of the Year after 4 weeks, hard to argue against Mac Jones. He's been the best rookie quarterback out of the bunch that we've seen so far through the first 4 weeks of the season. Jamar Chase, who was the front runner, I would say, after the first 3 weeks of the season because he had the 4 touchdowns, but not having a big performance in week 4 kind of bumps him back just a little bit. Mac Jones, meanwhile, looked really good against the New England Patriots, gave them a very tough game. He completed 18 passes in a row or something crazy. So Mac Jones at plus 400 is your favorite for Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's where I lean as well right now because the quarterback would have the advantage, and the quarterback is playing the best right now. As far as Offensive Player of the Year, Well, let's see. We'll go offensive player of the year. Derrick Henry is actually your front runner for offensive player of the year at plus 800. So Derrick Henry, who leads the league in rushing yards currently with 510 through 4 games. He has 4 touchdowns. That is second behind quarterback Sam Darnold of the Panthers, who has 5 rushing touchdowns this year. Derrick Henry he's got 4 rushing touchdowns, 510 rushing yards. The next running back that's close, the next second place running back, Nick Chubb with 362 rushing yards. That is rather interesting. But Derrick Henry leads the way, plus 800, your favorite for Offensive Player of the Year. Kyler Murray is your second favorite at plus 1,200. And then Travis Kelce at plus 1,400 is your third favorite. Myles Garrett leads the way for Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett, he has 6 sacks on the season. That is tops in the NFL. Second would be Chandler Jones with 5 and Danielle Hunter with 5. But Myles Garrett with 6 sacks on the season and 7 tackles for losses. Both of those numbers are tops in the NFL. Myles Garrett at plus 400, your favorite right now through the first 4 weeks to be your Defensive Player of the Year. Hey, if we're giving out awards through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season, I would give it to the guys that are the favorites right now in these categories. Myles Garrett would be my Defensive Player of the Year. I think Kyler Murray over Derrick Henry would be my Offensive Player of the Year. Mac Jones would be my Offensive Rookie, and my most valuable player would probably be Kyler Murray, and my Coach of the Year would be Brandon Staley. Let's get the thoughts of Mike Pritchard, former NFL player, current host here on VSiN. We'll talk to him coming up next about where we are in the NFL through the first 4 weeks of the season. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's the Look Ahead here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Look Ahead on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Make this football season your best sports betting season ever. Start your VSiN free trial today to get full access to our sports betting experts, including 24/7 video streaming, daily best bet emails, betting splits with the money and ticket percentages on every game, plus full access to VSiN.com data and analysis. You get everything VSiN has to offer for only $22 per month. Sign up now at vsin.com/subscribe. Scott Seidenberg back here with you, the Look Ahead here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and thrilled to be joined now by our very own here at VSiN, former NFL player Mike Pritchard, host of Betting Across America. And Mike, let's talk about this Monday Night Football game as the Chargers improved to 3-1 with a victory over the Raiders. And Brandon Staley, first-year head coach, is the favorite to win the Coach of the Year award through the first 4 weeks of the season. How impressed are you with the rookie head coach?
I'm very impressed. He's off of beating 2 Super Bowl winning head coaches back-to-back. When you think about the victory against Kansas City at Arrowhead, Andy Reid, Super Bowl winning head coach, probably is going to go in the Hall of Fame. And then Coach Gruden, John Gruden, on Monday night, one of the biggest stages out there. And he not only matches wits, but outclasses the Raiders, really. I mean, the game plan that he had, when you think about the Chargers, the inability to stop the run, what did they do? They stopped the run. They did not allow the Las Vegas Raiders to get started. And the Raiders were searching for anything and everything that for them to work tonight, and they couldn't find it. So a lot of credit to the head coach there.
What do you feel about this team as a whole and their projections moving forward?
You know, it's interesting because the NFL, Scott, catches up to you. Like Brandon Staley, he's off to a great start, certainly as a head coach, and certainly with the defensive mind and what he has done with the players and getting them to buy in, which is hard to do when you're a first-time head coach. You got a veteran-laden team out there with the Chargers, a lot of guys that feel like they know what they're doing. But no, they were looking for direction. He's brought that direction. So, but once the league catches up with you, what are you going to adjust to? And so I'm curious about that. Do they have the horses? Do they have all the pieces necessary to sustain this? I'm not sure about that right now, but they're off to a great start, that's for sure.
Through the first 4 weeks of the season, it's hard to argue that the AFC West could be one of the best divisions in football, but that depends on how you feel about the Raiders and how you feel about the Broncos moving forward, because I think we all, Mike, expect the Chiefs and the Chargers to be there when the season concludes. So when you look at those two teams, the Raiders and the Broncos, are these teams going to maintain their status right now as top-tier teams, or will they drop down to the pack?
Well, it's interesting because the Raiders have the Bears coming up on a short week, and, the Bears, they have their own issues, namely the head coach. And so when you think about the Raiders, you like their chances at home, but it's a short week, and it's off a loss in which they're going to be disappointed by. That's for sure. Now, the Broncos, here's how I look at average teams, Scott, and the Broncos and the Raiders, Broncos probably more below average, but now they got off to a hot start, beating average to below average type of teams. So that kind of balances out. But when you start to face those upper echelon teams and the teams that are executing and playing well, what do you have at that point? And I think the Raiders, they don't have all the parts. They have some. Derek Carr got off to a great start. I think their wide receiver position still needs some more polishing up. Once those matchups start to unfold in front of them a little bit, they got to help out Darren Waller if they can. And then they got to find a running game. And I don't know what the offensive line, the shape that it's in, all of the injuries, all the youth and inexperience that they have right now. It's a work in progress to me. So I'm filing all that away, to be honest with you, to see if they can sustain it. I'm looking to fade it if I see indicators that the wheels are about to fall off, though, that's for sure.
Mike, let's talk about the only undefeated team left in the NFL, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. At 4-0, tops in the division, tops in the league. Looking at their futures, do you see them as a candidate to win this NFC West, or will a team like the Rams, Seahawks, or 49ers leapfrog them?
Yeah, the Cardinals are interesting because every indicator I had going into the year did not present 4-0 start. And, you get lucky at times, and that's good. But a lot of things were said about their schedule and who they played. They've been on the road 3 out of the 4 times. And okay, lo and behold, they catch the Rams sleeping a little bit. But they played great. I mean, they're averaging 34 points a game. I mean, it's incredible to think about right now what the Cardinals are doing. But as long as they stay healthy, I think this is one team that can sustain it because of the division that they played in over the years. I mean, they're kind of built to beat the Rams and compete against Seattle and certainly take it to San Francisco. So we'll find out. Back-to-back divisional games are kind of difficult, but I think the Cardinals are for real this year.
Yeah, the Rams are the favorite in that division, only slightly, though, over the Cardinals, plus 150 compared to plus 175. Sticking in the NFC, Mike, the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to win the NFC East because they're the best team in that division. But based on what you've seen over the past couple of weeks, they've won 3 straight, and they lost a close game in Week 1 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is it time to start considering Dallas as a potential threat in the NFC postseason?
The postseason, I believe so. I believe so. That the NFC East, we know how terrible that thing was last year. It was god-awful. But it was god-awful for a reason. Dak Prescott got hurt. And you look at the fact that guy is making $40 million a year. And when you see that, first of all, I mean, it's incredible to think about, right? But then is he worth it? And the answer is yes, he's worth it to that franchise. And I think Dak Prescott, I've seen this when I was as a player and now certainly as a bettor, Scott. When you have that guy at quarterback, that team knows it. And that team does everything that they can possibly do to raise the level of the performance. You're seeing Diggs become one of the better defenders now. You're seeing that defense, Michael Parsons, kind of change the attitude on that side of the ball. And then offensively, Amari Cooper, when he pulled up Gimpy, typically Amari Cooper would have stayed out of a game. But that guy comes back in the game against the Panthers and catches a touchdown. And I think it's because of of the quarterback situation. So I give Dak a lot of credit, and certainly Dallas Cowboys, they've been looking for a guy like this.
Cowboys plus 1,000 to win the NFC. They are the 5th favorite behind Bucks, Rams, Packers, and Cardinals. Another team, Mike, that is kind of playing back to form is the Buffalo Bills. We're going to get a rematch of the AFC Championship game coming up this weekend, and it could be a preview of the AFC Championship game as well. They dropped the opening game to the Steelers, which was mind-boggling, but ever since then, they've been on a roll. They have a plus 90-point differential. Would you play some futures on the Buffalo Bills right now?
Absolutely. And I have them going to the Super Bowl in our pro football betting guide. My pick was for Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl for sure. I just love the continuity that they had with the coaching staff. Even though Daboll was rumored to get a job, I mean, he stayed there. Leslie Frazier is still there, and then Coach McDermott, and then Josh Allen. I mean, this is what I look for. I look for those Hall of Fame quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are trending to be elite. And to me, I think Josh Allen has improved that much year after year. And then you look at the roster, they added to it. They added to it with Emmanuel Sanders, who definitely has playoff and Super Bowl experience. So they have a lot of people that know how to get there. They know what it looks like. And I just think everything's clicking right now for Buffalo. You mentioned it, plus 90? Point differential is incredible at this point. I'm looking for a 3. If I can get it, you text me if you find a 3 in this game against Kansas City.
Yeah, the Bills currently plus 350 to win the AFC, right behind the Chiefs, who are plus 300. And yes, this game coming up this weekend could very well be a preview of the AFC title game. It is at 2.5 right now, but the 2.5 for the Chiefs, Mike, on DraftKings is juiced to minus 115. So we could possibly see a 3, and then we'd certainly jump on the Buffalo Bills. But speaking of some of these futures, do the Chiefs right now deserve to be the favorite, considering that they're 2-2?
I think so. You look at that offense and the performance against the Eagles. That's what you expect from Patrick Mahomes and certainly Kansas City. Now, defensively, they have a lot of issues. I don't think they have a defense right now that gets them back to a Super Bowl. But the offense can certainly keep them in games and keep them winning games. But we'll see what they do on that side of the ball. It's a get better league. I was saying that today on our show, Betting Across America. So I look for the Chiefs to get better. But at this point, that defense a little bit concerning to me.
Mike, you mind hanging on for another segment? I want to get to some teams that we're either going to fade or we're going to follow for the rest of the season, or at least the next several weeks of the season. You mind hanging on?
Absolutely. Let's do
awesome. There he is, Mike Pritchard, host of Betting Across America, of course, former NFL player, joining me here, Scott Seidenberg. We will get to those teams that we will either fade or we will follow for the next several weeks of this NFL season, as we are through technically a quarter. I know there's 17 games, but we're through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season here on VSiN.
If you're a predator, you can see things that other people can't see. So you can be stalking someone and they would never know it.
My name is M. William Phelps. For the past 20 years, I've been immersed in the world of true crime as a New York Times best-selling investigative journalist and host of the true crime podcast, Paper Ghosts. Now I'm hosting a new weekly podcast from iHeartRadio, Crossing the Line. Get ready for the uncensored truth, interviews with top experts, and stories of the missing and murdered you have not heard anywhere else.
I mean, he was the master manipulator of coercive control.
Every time a case is solved, it gives the people that are close to the victim a little bit of hope that answers will come someday.
It turns out that the dead guy worked out at the same gym.
Listen to Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps, coming October 12. Listen and subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
I want to get back to being in my community group.
I want to continue having a soccer season.
So I can throw parties again.
So I can go to her parties.
It'd really be nice to dine in instead of getting delivery for a change.
So I can feel safe and protected for myself and my students.
We each have our own reason for why we're getting vaccinated against COVID-19. What will yours be? Visit getvaccineanswers.org for information on the COVID-19 vaccines. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is the look ahead on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Before you make your next bet, be sure to visit vsin.com to check the current betting splits data. This new feature gives you insights on where the money and bets are moving for every game. You'll be able to see where the public is betting based on the number of tickets and where the money doesn't match the public opinion. Data is available for money line, over, under, and against the spread bets. Betting splits are another way VSiN is here to make you a smarter, better year-round. Check out today's betting splits for every game at vsin.com. Scott Seidenberg here, the look ahead on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, as I'm rejoined by our very own Mike Pritchard, host of Betting Across America, former NFL player, of course. And Mike, we're going to play a little game called Fade or Follow, and I'm going to read you out a team and their next 4 games. And I want you to let me know if you're going to fade, so you're going to bet against them, or if you're going to follow and you're going to be betting with them in this next stretch of games. Because you know how the NFL season works. We used to break it down into quarters, 4 games at a time. I know it's a little different this year with the 17-game schedule, but we're still going to break it down into quarters for this purpose. Let's start, Mike, with the 3-1 Cincinnati Bengals, off to a tremendous start. Their next 4 games, home to Green Bay, at Detroit, at Baltimore, at the Jets. Fade or follow Cincinnati?
Oh, you're going to give me a hard one right off the gate, huh? Okay. Let's see. The Bengals are a unique team because I think they're flawed on their offensive line, but they've been getting some pretty good efforts there by Burrow and certainly the young receiving core that they have too. But they are a young team, and I think their head coach is going to start feeling some pressure. So I'm going to fade the Bengals. I know they're good for covering. Last year in particular, I cashed a lot of tickets with them covering some numbers here, but I think I'm going to fade the next 4 games here for Cincinnati.
How about the New Orleans Saints, who got the big win against Green Bay in Week 1? The loss to Carolina was ugly at New England, and then the Giants game. I mean, that's inexcusable. You can't lose that football game to the New York Football Giants. Coming up next, they go at Washington, then a bye week, at Seattle, and then Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Fade or follow New Orleans?
Well, see, this is one of those teams where I want to follow them badly. I do. But the only caveat I have right now is just replacing a legendary quarterback. Who does that in the National Football League and has success? And I'm talking about, Hall of Fame, culture out the door type of legendary quarterback. And whether it was Peyton Manning leaving Denver or the Colts, I mean, they got Andrew Luck, which was fortunate. Or look at New England without Tom Brady. I've just seen too many instances, the Dallas Cowboys after Troy Aikman. I've just seen so many instances in which it's been hard to replace that. So I see the inconsistency already with New Orleans. Therefore, I'll probably look to fade them several times.
All right, Mike, Carolina loses their first game of the year, but they could get some good news on the horizon as Christian McCaffrey could be available for them this week. Of course, they lose J.C. Horn, but he's not going to be out for the entire season. And eventually, C.J. Henderson will be up to speed and ready to play and roll for them for head coach Matt Rule. Carolina's got home games coming up against Philadelphia and Minnesota before road games against the Giants and Falcons. Fade or follow the Panthers?
Oh, I'm following the Panthers. Run CMC. They didn't put him on IR for a reason, right? They could have put him on short-term IR. They did not do that. Christian McCaffrey, I've known this guy since he was a kid, and I used to be his roommate with his father, Ed, when I was with the Broncos. So, I know the family, and I just think the world of Christian McCaffrey. And once he gets back, he's definitely going to be a jolt to that offense. And they need it. I think Sam Darnold needs that, either an outlet or just another weapon out there to make him more comfortable. So I think this is one of those teams that They surprised people a little bit. They, below average team, but they look to be getting it right. And I think the world of Matt Rule as a head coach. So I definitely would follow them.
Mike, Minnesota's off to a 1-3 start, and you could actually make the argument that record should be reversed, right? The Dalvin Cook fumble in week 1 in overtime, they could have won that game. The missed field goal in week 2, they should have won that game, and then they lose to the Browns last week in a tough defensive battle. Coming up next, they host Detroit, at Carolina, then a bye week. They host Dallas, then go to Baltimore. Fade or follow the Vikings?
They have surprised me. I'm not going to lie, Scott. I think they played very well for the circumstances, and I'm talking about Zim as a head coach under the gun a little bit, and then Kirk Cousins. The guy was completing 74% of his passes, but then they got exposed against Cleveland. Cleveland, a good football team with a coach that kind of knew the Vikings well and their philosophies, and you saw the defense kind of take over that game. Short scoring game, not a lot of points in that game, certainly that we didn't see. But Minnesota ran into some issues, and I wonder if that's going to show up for them. So I'd look to fade them a little bit because I don't like the nepotism with the coaching staff. I don't like the fact that Zim might be disconnected from a lot of situations there with that organization. So that's one of those teams I'm looking to fade for sure.
Kind of like them coming up this week. It's a high number, but Mike Zimmer, 32-15 against the spread after a straight up loss. So
it is Detroit too.
Yes.
I mean, I see what you're talking about right there. But those other games in the future, I don't see the consistency with them yet.
Let's talk about one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. 1-3, and I still don't know how they beat Buffalo. Well, they got the punt block return for a touchdown, so that's how they beat Buffalo in week 1. But then losses to the Raiders, Bengals, and the Packers. Coming up next for Pitt, they host Denver, then Seattle. They have a bye week. They go to Cleveland, and then host the Bears. Are we fading or following Big Ben?
Yeah, I'm fading like his career is. I'm gonna fade that. I mean, Tomlin and that quote that he had to Chase Young that everybody's heard before, that I hope we're not bad enough to draft somebody like you. Well, I think that's going to come true because even with T.J. Watt, that defense and Blitzburg has been diagnosed. That everybody knows how to beat Pittsburgh right now, and I don't know if they match up very well on the back end. Up front, they can get after it. There's no doubt. But on the back end, even with some talented players right there, I think they don't match up when the league turns into a matchup league. And then the injuries offensively, the fact that the offensive line, they can't run the football. They've skewed their passing attempts so high away from running the football that the Steelers are out of sync, out of character right now. So I don't know when they get it back together, Scott. So, I'm fading that.
One more team, Mike. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks, who are 2-2, coming off a win against the 49ers. And now their next couple of games, they have the Rams, but it's at home. They go to Pittsburgh, and then home games against New Orleans and Jacksonville before their bye. Fade or follow the Seahawks?
I'm going to follow the Seahawks. They're in the toughest division, NFC West, and they have Russell Wilson. I mean, that guy is an amazing football player. I don't care what you say, and I go back to what I follow. I follow and I track Hall of Fame quarterbacks because those are quarterbacks. Those are the type of quarterbacks that are going to get to Super Bowls and win them. Or quarterbacks that trend that way or trend towards elite. And certainly Russell Wilson is that. And I think the defense will get it together. They are closing that Super Bowl window, though. I think they're at the edges of that run with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. So we'll see what they do with it. But they're going to be highly competitive, so I would follow them.
Who's been the most disappointing team for you this season? It could be somebody that we already talked about or somebody that we didn't mention, but who's just been really disappointing for you?
Well, it's not a surprise, but I mean, I think the Falcons, for the talent level that they have offensively, Arthur Smith, I know he's a first-time head coach, and I get that, and that's a new situation, trying to rebuild, but I thought they would be better than that, or at least look better than what they've looked like so far. I think San Francisco could go into that category too. And it's feast or famine with them, with Kyle Shanahan. Either he's going to go to the Super Bowl and win it or not win it, but compete in it, and then certainly have a losing season if they're not going to a Super Bowl. So it's feast or famine, right? And so, I mean, the biggest disappointments to me are those two teams right there. Everybody else, you kind of figured it was going to happen to the Texans, the Jaguars, and teams like that, even the Colts.
Yeah,
I'd look at that's a unique situation in which, okay, head coach and quarterback, they know each other, but that quarterback wasn't available for much of training camp.
Mm-hmm. And Mike Dean's just been decimated by injuries as well.
Right.
Mike, I appreciate the time. I love chatting football with you and hope to do it again soon.
Absolutely, Scott. Anytime, man. That was fun.
There he is, Mike Pritchard, former NFL wide receiver and the host of VSiN's Betting Across America. I'm Scott Seidenberg as we continue to look ahead to the NFL week ahead and college football. I'll tell you about an emerging Heisman candidate and a team that I'm looking to bet on moving forward. Coming up next.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. The VSiN experts live and breathe sports betting, and we've assembled the best team here in Vegas, the gambling capital of the world. Our unique approach helps you learn how to become a better handicapper. We go beyond picks and predictions to discuss the numbers and 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 to discuss the numbers.
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkman, host of the Anxiety Bites podcast. Take a weekly deep dive into anxiety as I share stories from my decades of anxiety disorders and recovery, as well as candid and down-to-earth interviews with esteemed experts in the field of anxiety who are here to help us all have our anxiety bite less. Subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I want to get back to kissing the cheeks of my grandbabies, making Sunday dinner with a house full of family and lots of laughs.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the very first step that let us get back to what we miss most. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I wait? Now, get the facts. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
For the past 20 years, I've been immersed in the world of true crime and have confronted serial killers face to face. My name is M. William Phelps, host of the hit podcast Paper Ghosts. Now, my new show, Crossing the Line. Get ready for the uncensored truth, interviews with top experts, and stories of the missing and murdered you have not heard anywhere else.
I mean, he was the master manipulator of coercive control.
It turns out that the dead guy worked out at the same gym.
Listen to Crossing the Line, coming October 12. Listen and subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.